Hello everyone, my name is David Collins and I run a BSAC Seamanship Centre down in Weymouth, Dorset. Today what we're going to be doing is one of our exercise plans when we do boat handling, Chartwork and diver Coxswain. And what in front of us we have a simple passage plan exercise. This one is called exercise 1. What we need to do is make sure that we've got everything relevant before we start. So first things we've got obviously is our card. We've got a chart for the area we believe we're going to be diving. We also will require some tools, which is a Portland plotter and a pair of parallel rules. And what makes life a lot easier, if you can, is a pair of dividers. We will also require a 2B pencil, which is nice and sharp, and we can mark nice faint lines on our chart so we can reuse the chart time and time again. Finally, what we will need is the total curve for the area of operation. We're talking Portland, so we've got a Portland tidal curve. Slightly different from the standard ones because Portland's got a double low water. High water here, we've got 8 hours down to 5. We'll talk about more about tidal diamonds and tidal curves in another webinar. So we need that one. And finally, what we need is a very simple passage plan so we can record exactly what we're doing to get from our start point to our dive site. So the first thing we need to understand is where the site is, and as it clearly states on here, we've got 50 degrees 34 735 north 002 26 570 west. This is where my dividers come in handy. On the chart over here we have got 34. So what we're looking with our 2HB pencil is going to go for 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. There's our 7 8. So there's our first mark. Okay. We now want 3 5. So if we look down the small sections here, we've got these minor ones. So 3 5 is there. So if we work back, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So come off of that one, working back. So we put it on that one. There's our 7. Okay. So we put it on that one, and then we want to go 3 5. Which is make sure we're nice and accurate. Accuracy at this level is absolutely paramount. If we make a mess in accuracy on the chart, when we get there to do it for real, the error will be fantastically crazy. So that's the first pair of dividers. The second set of dividers we want to set up at 20, 26, 57. If we look along this line here, once again we've got 26. So what again, we want to carry 5. 1 2 3 4 5, and that's there. And then we go 7. This particular chart hasn't got the smaller digits, so we're going to have to guesstimate it. So if I go from there, 1 2 3 4 5, and we're about there. So we've now got 2 sets of dividers set up. So if I now move this line along here and put this one on the 34, we now know that our wreck is going to be in this area. So what we need to do now is quite simply put a mark there, and then put a mark there. Join the 2 lines together, and we've got 1 mark. And now with the second pair of dividers, we can move along and put it straight bang there. If we want to be really accurate, once again we could put one mark there, followed by another one there, and then draw our line through there. So we've now got our dive site. So moving back to our actual plan, exercise plan, it clearly states we're only using transits, bearings and echo sounder to basically locate the site. So we're not using GPS. Obviously we're going to be here where the launch, where the slip is. So if we put the GPS positions in here, which we can straight off of this chart because this chart is compatible, it's WGS 84. So whatever we mark off of here will give us an accurate measurement. But the GPS, if you just put that sole waypoint in, will give us a straight line straight to the site, which means we're going to be crashing through all these moorings and then hitting the wall. So we're not even going to get there. So what we need to think about is how we're going to navigate round it. So we're here. So basically we're just going to do a simple line to our site. So we're now here. Okay. What we now got to think about is how we're going to navigate just using hand bearing compasses and bearings. Here we have a fixed boat compass. I always ask the question, how accurately can we steer a boat? Some of my students say, oh, within a couple of degrees. Realistically, we are talking a 10-degree tolerance. That's all it is on this compass here. So it gives us a 20-degree arc. Okay, so what we need to make sure we're not being fixated by the compass. We've got something out in front of us, maybe a church spire, a cut in the gorge or something like that. Maybe another fixed item might be a buoy or a boat at anchor or something like that, which you can use as a reference for a short time to navigate to. So what we're going to use is, we're here, we're going to find this wreck here. So we need to think about what we're going to use. Let me just zoom out. What we're actually going to use. I think that one looked a bit better. What we're actually going to use. So what we've got is, over this side, we've got harbour wall, harbour wall, harbour wall. But in between the harbour wall, we've got these gaps, which we could use. There is buildings on top of them, but they're not that pronounced. The only one we do have is a lighthouse here. We have a lighthouse here, which is 10 metres high, which is the most prominent structure on the harbour wall. So that would make a fantastic waypoint, transit bearing. So if we line that up with our wreck, once again using our 2HP pencil, we draw a line and extend it on right to the end. So we've now got a line which runs right through the wreck. The next thing we got, we're here and we need to get to this line. So what is the most simple bearing to navigate? This chart is north up. So simply by joining the two lines, we now got a point. So what we're now going to do is go to our sheet, and then I'm just going to put a couple of lines across. I'm just going to use a pen on this instance. I'm going to put a line through there. This marks the waypoint at the entrance to Portland Marina. To make life a little bit easier, why not draw the wall in? Okay, so we've got, still leaves us a bit of space. We then have the next one, which is our north turning, and then finally we've got the point to the wreck site. I did say about this line now represents where the lighthouse is on the Corn A head. So we've got a waypoint here, which is obviously where the wreck is. We've got a turn point here, which we've already said is north. What we need to do when we go to north, we need to know what this bearing is. So what we're simply going to use is the Portland plotter. A fantastic bit of equipment. So if we put that line on there between the wreck and to the centre of the lighthouse, nice and accurately, always make sure this points in the where we're going, and then we need to rotate this outer bezel so it lines up with the grid on the chart. Sometimes you might have to slide it across. It's all about accuracy, and then we read off on here the actual degree bearing, which is 66 degrees. So I'm going to put that one down as 66. The other thing we've got to briefly think about is variation between magnetic and true. This is true north. We've got to think about our compass, how that's going to align. Luckily with this chart, it's dated 2023 and it's basically showing true north, half a degree. Are we going to worry about half a degree going across the harbour? No, we're not. If we were going to go from here over to New York, half a degree, yes, that will make a considerable difference. But for this exercise, half a degree, we're just going to ignore it. Okay, so we know that's 66 degrees. So we've got that sorted at 66 degrees. So let's move this across now. What we're looking for now is asking us to find the state of tide, what time we're going to leave. So like all dive sites, we want to dive this site on slack water. So what we're going to be looking at, as I said before, things like tidal diamonds. That's one of these things here. Okay. If I just slide the chart down a little bit more, we do have two more here as well. Okay. Portland Harbour, think it as a washing bowl, and we've got these are your sink waste. So basically, as you pull the plug out, water is going to funnel out these small areas, which is going to create us a bit more flow than normal. Actually, if you look over here, there's not a single tidal diamond, which simply means there is very, very nominal amount of water. The water always moves, tide's coming in and out, but it's not tidal at all. So therefore we can dive this particular wreck at all states of the tide, which makes life a lot easier. So for this exercise, we're going to be at the dive site for 1:30. So what we got to think about, how long it's going to take us to get there. So what we now got to think about is calculating the distance to the site. For this we need our dividers again. Alright, our dividers again, and then physically measure the distances. So I'm going to measure the very first one there, which is 1.1 of a nautical mile. That between 54 and 55 is 1 nautical mile. We have got tenths, they're all divided into tenths, and then they're divided into hundredths. So if we were doing 6 knots, 6 divided by 60, a nautical mile will take us 10 minutes. Therefore, 1/10 of a nautical mile would take us 1 minute. So what we're going to do on our little sheet, we're going to be doing our speed at 6 knots. We know it's 0.1. That's going to take us 1 minute. We're now going to move forward and now look at the next one, which is the distance to the site, which is between there and there. Measure on the chart again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.2. So that's 5.2 nautical miles, doing 6 knots. That's going to take us 5 and 25 quarter. And if that's 5.5, that's going to take us 5.5 minutes. If it's 0.25, it's going to be a quarter. So put that there. Finally, we've got our distance from where we're starting to the marina. So we can quite to the entrance from there to there. And that is just under 2 cables. We're going to call it, just for ease, is 0.2. Unfortunately, we can't do 6 knots because we're going to upset all the gin and tonics. So we're going to cut our speed down to 4 knots. 4 knots, once again, 4 is divided by 60 is 15. So the nautical mile is going to take us not 10 minutes, it's going to take us 15. So each section is going to take us 1.5 minutes. So therefore that's going to take us 3 minutes. So if we add all this up, we have got 9.25 minutes. Distance to the site is 0.82. So we've got that all sorted out. So that's fantastic. So the actual total time is going to take us 9 minutes. So for us to be there at 1:30, we've got to be leaving by at least 1/4 We've then got to think about how long it's going to take us to get to the dive site when we get there, and how long it's going to take us to do a search pattern to do the site. We'll talk about the search pattern in a minute. So we've got to think about that. The other thing we've got to think about is going on this line, but how do we know we've arrived at the destination? We've got to think about how can we stop. Once again, we're not using the GPS, which will give us a pinpoint, tell us where we are. We're actually going to be using hand bearing compasses and stopwatch. So we've got a hand bearing compass and we've got a stopwatch. So these are the two pieces of equipment we're going to be using. Okay, so we need to think about how we're going to stop. So we've got to think about, look at some other waypoints we can look at, some more bearings. So what we can simply do is think about these entrances here. We can go on that side there. Once again, come off our site, draw the line. Think about a compass bearing by rotating the bezel again. Get it trying to line up with the true life of the chart. If you've got to slide it down, so be it. And that'll give us 26 degrees. We now got another one, which we could use these, but there's always going to be ships there. But we can use the south entrance one because the left hand side is a lot higher than the right. So once again, coming off the wreck, making sure this is pointing in the right direction. Rotate the bezel again so it lines up with something. Once again, we're going to have to slide that up. Make sure it's all accuracy. The more accurate you get on this level, the more chance you're going to get to it. So that's going to give us, between there and our wreckage, 126 degrees. So what we need to do on the back of our planning sheet is draw this out. So what I've simply done is drawn the harbour wall. There's our lighthouse, there's the harbour wall, there's the south entrance, and written all these on. We had 25, 26, so they're in the area there. Okay, and there's our site. The other thing as well is transits. Transits are two objects we can inline as a bearing line. For us, we are very, very fortunate to have two mooring buoys, mulberries here, which were constructed for World War II for the D-Day landings, man-made harbours, which they float across the tide. They would be floating across. When they get to their desired thing, they'll fill in with water and they'll sink to the seabed and create a man-made harbour. These particular ones, it's again taking a bearing, turning this back round, lining it up, 180 degrees, spot on, so we know south of the wreck. So once again, we'll put a line on the chart. So when we're coming along here, as long as you keep these two that lined up, we could be anywhere along this line. So once we've done that, what we need to do is make sure then, using the hand bearing compasses, to make sure these other points are in line. And once we're there, we should be all happy days. As I said, to the site itself, here we are. There's our site. That was our waypoint. That's the harbour wall. That's the outer wall. When we get there, we're going to drive across. And then what we're going to do now is we need to make sure that when we cross this point, what do we see on the echo sounder? This is another mistake a lot of people make. They just keep it in automatic. Looking at the chart, the depth of water around here at the moment is around about 10 metres. I know that the wreckage we've read in Dive Dorset is only about 1 metre high. So if this is at 10 metres, we're only going to see something very, very small on the scale. But if we send this up at 3 metres to 0 as a bottom lock, 1, 2, that becomes that, which is far more easier to see. And then other bits of wreckage as we go on. Might even see something up to there. So what we're going to do is, because once again, the coordinates we've been given, they may be approximate. We don't, they're on the wreck shape, which is fine, but we need to make sure we deploy the shot on the biggest bit of metal. So when we deploy our divers, they know they're on the wreck. So we're going to do a nice parallel search. That particular there will be about a boat load, about 6-7 metres. 6-7 metres. Okay, and we're going to go on through, and as we plot, we're going to record marks on the chart. But what we don't want to do is end up with so many marks we don't know what it is. So for instance, that one there might be 0.5 metre. This one here is 1 metre, so we're now not going to record anything less than 1 metre. And then we might find here we've got 1.5 metres. So that will be where we're going to be shotting. Okay. The last thing we got to think about is calculate the depth of water, here it says to the site. So what we're going to use is the tidal curve for Portland. We will need an almanac, and we need to turn to Portland tide tables for today. And today is Tuesday the 28th of January, and we're going to be in at 1:30, so we're looking at high water and low water. The first high water was 5:55, low water was 10:59, so we've missed that segment. So we're now between a low water of 10:59 and 18:19. So we're going to record those figures down, and our scrap bit of paper again. So we have got high water is 18:19 with a tidal height of 1.7. Low water obviously has passed, but we're still going to acknowledge that, and that's 0.7. So with this information, we know this is where we want it. High water today is 18:19, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 19. Okay. High water is 0.7. Low water is 7. So we've got a metre tide. We're now going to use drawing those two lines up together, and then we're going in just past, and it's springs or neaps. So we're going to roughly go about halfway. So this is where parallel rules is good, because we can just set that upon there. Move that across, put a mark there, go across here, scurry that across, and we've got 0.7. Okay, so we've got 0.7 above chart datum on here. The actual wreck has got a contour line running through it, which is 10 meters. So the actual height of the wreck is going to be 10.7 at 130. So once again on here, we could write high water is obviously 1819, low water 1009. We could put 1.7.7, and then at 1330 we have got 10.7 meters. Okay, we also want to record our position 50, 34, 735, 002, 26, 570 west. Okay, because this is the sheet we're going to be taking on the boat, and due to the fact this is made of paper, we need to make sure we put this in a waterproof sleeve. Alright, because we're not taking this, we can't take this, we definitely can't take the chart. That's why we do this one's laminated, okay, and this is why we've got that on the back of there, so we can use this to navigate. So there we are, a very, very simple passage plan to a dive site. So hopefully you found that interesting. If you need to contact me, contact us by email. Happy to discuss anything, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you.